Hello everybody and welcome to this video where I cover all the help available to you as a self-employed person. So in this video we are going to be talking about the help for the self-employed, particularly the help that's out there under the Self-Employed Income Support Scheme. So the first thing to talk about is whether you are actually self-employed, and this has caused a lot of problems online and a lot of people are quite upset at the moment, rightly so in many situations, because depending whether you have a limited company or not can cause you issues here. So from the government's point of view and from a tax perspective, you're self-employed when you're a sole trader. You're effectively an individual who's trading, putting self-employed income on their tax return each year and carrying on like that. So for those of you who are limited company owners, this video is not going to apply and you should skip to the video where we talk about furlough and limited company options. But for now, this is self-employed unfortunately only. I completely get it. It can be confusing. If you go for a mortgage lender as a one-person limited company, then the chances are you're going to be filling out self-employment forms. You certainly feel self-employed. Your work stops when your clients can't pay you and everything else. But unfortunately, for this particular scheme, that's where they've drawn the line. So let's talk about when you can get it and what the criteria is for getting this particular grant. So there's other grants and reliefs in play that we're not going to talk too much in this video about, but I'm just going to mention them. You've got ones where if you pay in business rates, there's a potential to get those grants. There's ones where if you pay no business rates, but you've got a premises, you might be able to get those as well. There's a loan scheme, and there's a few other things going on, but for now, for self-employed, this is the main one. Now, in order to qualify for this, you need to be effectively self-employed in the tax system before the 5th of April 19. So if you started after then, so let's say you started early 2019 in the tax year, say like May, you're not going to qualify. And the reason for that is the only way they can tell what's going on and what your earnings could possibly be is if you've done a tax return and submitted it already. So they've drawn the line on that tax year. So if you've submitted an 18-19 tax return, the one that would have been done in the January just gone, January 2020, then there's a good chance that's step one of whether you could qualify done. The other two steps are your self-employed income needs to be more than half of your income in the year. So again, if you just started in the 18-19 tax year, let's say you're employed and you earned 25 grand up till December 18, and then the January, February, March you were self-employed but only generated about 5 grand, because you're not more than half of your income comes from self-employed, unfortunately you're not going to qualify either. The third reason you might not qualify is your income from self-employment, so your profit, not the top end, what you actually made at the end after you paid all your expenses and everything. If that was over £50,000, you won't be able to qualify either. If it was just a blip, they will average it over 3 years, and that's generally how they're going to figure out how much to pay you, is they're going to look back 3 years or at least whatever years you've got on record. So to recap the holes in it, so if you're newly self-employed from the 6th of April, you're not going to be able to claim. If you only have small self-employment income in the previous year, you're probably not going to be able to claim. And if your income's over the 50k limit, it's also a cliff edge. It's not apportioned or anything like that. It's you won't get anything under this scheme. So, but for those that are eligible, it does work quite nicely. And what they'll do is they'll work out your taxable profit over the last 3 years if you've got them, and work out, okay, well in the year this is the average profit, so divide that by 12, this gives us a average monthly income, and they're going to pay you 80% of that. So hopefully you're still with me on that, but they're going to work out this 80% of what they think you would earn monthly. Now, unfortunately, we're waiting for some detail at the moment as to how they're going to calculate that, but we're presuming they're going to use your taxable profits on your tax return. Now that can be a good thing or it can be a bad thing, depending how tax efficient you've been. So you might have bought, say, a big van. We don't know if they're going to allow you to take out things like what we would call them capital allowances, but for these big items, so if you bought a 30 grand van in a year right now, you could knock 30 grand off your taxable profit and it'd put you potentially in a loss. That's great for tax, not so great for this particular relief if they choose to do that. So there's a few things we're looking out for, but generally that's what you'd hope for, 80% of your normal monthly taxable income. It is going to be capped at 2.5 grand a month. So if you're lucky enough to be in that bracket, unfortunately, you're going to be capped at 2.5 grand, but that just brings it in line with the equivalent for employed people. What's cool about this is it is a grant, it's not a loan. So a lot of the other things they're talking about are actually loans. So there's a business interruption loan scheme, for example, or if you're having to go and get an overdraft, you're going to have to pay it back at some point. But this is a grant. It is taxable like any other income. So it's not completely tax-free or anything, but you don't have to repay it. The other thing that's quite cool about this is you can actually take another job whilst it's going. You can also carry on working. So In some of the equivalent ones where you've been furloughed, where as an employee you've been sent home and laid off, or as a limited company director you've ended up that way, you can't actually carry out any work. For the self-employed one, you can still struggle along and try and do stuff and hustle and get some money. So from that point of view, it is really, really good. One of the other possible issues, and until we see more technical guidance, we're not 100% sure, is it looks like they're going to just take your whole yearly earnings. So using the example I gave where you started partway through the year, your earnings, if you did manage to get over half of them for self-employed, but they're not particularly representative of the whole year. Currently, it looks like they're just going to take that period and just say, well, that's still going to, we're still going to count that as a 12-month period, which is going to bring your average down. So again, we're waiting to see the guidance, but it's not particularly exciting in that sense. So of course, your main question is going to be, when am I going to get my grant? Because I've just listened to Dan talk about all these different criteria I have to hit to be eligible for it. Okay, I think I am. Well, the answer is HMRC are going to write to you. How quickly that happens, we don't know. And what they're saying is they're estimating that the ability to get this money will be around June time. Now, it's a massive task for HMRC, and I think they're probably doing a fantastic job behind the scenes trying to get this through. I mean, the infrastructure and all the things they've got to do to get this done must be quite large, but they're going to have some sort of application process online where you can do this. But for now, they're saying they will write to you if they think you fit the criteria. And again, there's a couple of weird situations where I think there'll be ones where you might get a letter that says you're eligible for it, but actually you've turned into a limited company since then, or you stopped trading and you shouldn't be claiming it. So there's going to be some confusion over it. So the first thing I would say is, if you've got an accountant, check with them about whether they think you should be due it. And also, if you do get a letter, check with them if you think that you shouldn't be due it. Just because ultimately at some point there will be some compliance on this, I'm sure. And if you have claimed something you shouldn't have, as always with these things, there's bound to be penalties and interest to claim it back. So just be sensible about it if you know you shouldn't be claiming it. And again, we're hoping they're going to be able to pay this at the end of June when you'll be able to apply as well. So you might get, say, 3 months, 4 months payment in one go at that particular point. So unfortunately, there is a bit of a cash flow need right now to keep you going. And what the government have said is, well, apart from loans, overdrafts and the rest of it, you have got the ability to apply for universal credit. Unfortunately, for universal credit, if you've got £16,000 of savings, you're not going to get it. So if you're saving up for a house deposit, that can be quite a disadvantage. You're also, if you've got, it's a household claim, so if you've got other people in the household as well, you might find that you just can't meet the criteria because you've got enough earnings as far as they're concerned. So that again is a bit of an issue. The one good thing though is if you do qualify, it's possible to get the money quite quickly. Technically, it's a 5-week wait before you get it, but they do give you the opportunity during the call to get an advance on that. And okay, you've got to repay it later, but right now, if you need to feed yourself, you're going to be happy with the money in your hand. The other thing is small business you could do, depending if you're VAT registered, you have a VAT deferral at the moment, you won't have to pay your current VAT until a lot later down the line. And HMRC has allowed you to delay any July tax payment you've got until January next year. So use those things, generate your cash flow, and hopefully that will tide you over until June. And as one final thing, you can actually apply for both universal credit and the self-employed grant, but you will probably have to take the self-employed grant into when you have to report to universal credit and you've had that grant, you'll have to report that in there, and it's probably going to stop likely during that period. But right now, if you need the cash, that's the way to go. So that's where we are at the moment as a self-employed person. Hopefully that's given you some insight into what's available. The main thing right now is there's no point calling HMRC. They will write to you, they will let you know, and then you can take it from there. So in the meantime, stay well, try and stay profitable, and we'll see you on the next video.